Sarah Martinez had always believed that love would find her in the most expected places. Maybe at a wine bar in downtown Chicago, or through a dating app where successful marketing executives like herself typically met other professionals. She never imagined it would happen at 11:30 p.m. in the gleaming corridors of Morrison & Associates, the prestigious consulting firm where she worked as a senior account manager. That Tuesday night, Sarah was pulling another late shift, preparing for a crucial presentation that could secure her the promotion she'd been chasing for 2 years. The office building was eerily quiet, with only the soft hum of computers and the distant sound of a vacuum cleaner breaking the silence. She had grown accustomed to these solitary nights, fueled by coffee and ambition. As she walked toward the break room for her fourth cup of coffee, she noticed someone she'd never seen before. A man in navy blue coveralls was carefully cleaning the conference room windows, moving with a methodical precision that caught her attention. He appeared to be in his early 30s, with dark hair slightly tousled from work, and there was something about his focused demeanor that made her pause. What struck Sarah most was how he treated the space around him. Unlike other cleaning staff who rushed through their duties, this man took time to straighten chairs, wipe down surfaces twice, and even adjust a crooked picture frame on the wall. There was a quiet dignity in his movements that spoke of someone who took pride in his work, regardless of what others might think. When he turned and noticed Sarah watching, she felt embarrassed for staring. But instead of the awkward moment she expected, he smiled warmly and nodded politely. "Working late again, Miss Martinez?" he asked, and she was surprised he knew her name. His voice was gentle but confident, with a slight accent that hinted at a rich cultural background. "Unfortunately, yes," Sarah replied, returning his smile. "I don't think I've seen you before. Are you new here?" "Started last week," he said, continuing his work while they talked. "I'm Miguel Rodriguez. I usually work the overnight shift, so we probably wouldn't cross paths often." There was something refreshing about Miguel's straightforward manner. In Sarah's world of corporate politics and carefully crafted conversations, his authenticity was like a breath of fresh air. She found herself lingering in the hallway, asking about his previous work and how he was settling into the new job. Miguel explained that he had moved to Chicago 6 months ago from a smaller town in Texas, looking for better opportunities in schools for his 7-year-old daughter, Emma. The way his eyes lit up when he mentioned Emma told Sarah everything she needed to know about what mattered most to him. He worked 2 jobs to support them both, cleaning offices at night and doing maintenance work during the day. As they talked, Sarah learned that Miguel had studied business administration before life took an unexpected turn. When Emma's mother left when she was just 2 years old, Miguel had to abandon his career plans to focus on being a full-time father. He never spoke with bitterness about the sacrifices he'd made, only with determination about building a better future for his daughter. Over the following weeks, these late-night encounters became the highlight of Sarah's extended work hours. She began timing her coffee breaks to coincide with Miguel's cleaning schedule in her section of the building. Their conversations gradually deepened from polite small talk to genuine exchanges about their dreams, challenges, and perspectives on life. Miguel possessed a wisdom that came from facing real hardships and emerging stronger. He listened to Sarah's corporate frustrations without judgment, offering insights that often cut straight to the heart of complex situations. When she complained about office politics, he would remind her that every job had its dignity if approached with the right attitude. When she stressed about presentations, he would share stories about Emma's school performances, putting her concerns into perspective. Sarah began to look forward to these brief moments of connection more than she cared to admit. Miguel's presence in the sterile corporate environment brought warmth and humanity to her increasingly demanding work life. She found herself staying later than necessary, hoping to catch another glimpse of his genuine smile or hear another story about Emma's latest adventure. One evening, Miguel arrived at work with a visible bruise on his cheek and a slight limp. When Sarah asked what happened, he reluctantly explained that he'd been mugged while walking home from his day job. The attackers had taken his wallet, which contained the money he'd been saving for Emma's school supplies. Despite his obvious pain, Miguel seemed more concerned about disappointing his daughter than about his own injuries. Without thinking, Sarah offered to lend him money, but Miguel politely declined. His pride wouldn't allow him to accept what he saw as charity, even from someone who had become a friend. However, Sarah's offer revealed something important to both of them. The boundaries between their different worlds were beginning to blur, and genuine care was developing between two people who lived very different lives. That night, as Sarah watched Miguel continue his work despite his injuries, she realized something had shifted in her heart. This man, who society might overlook or dismiss, possessed qualities that were rare in her professional circle. His integrity, resilience, and unwavering dedication to his daughter represented everything she had been unconsciously searching for in a partner. The revelation both thrilled and terrified her. Sarah had built her identity around professional success and social status. The idea of falling for someone whose life circumstances were so different from her own challenged everything she thought she wanted. Yet she couldn't deny the growing attraction she felt, not just to Miguel's kindness and strength, but to the authentic person he was in a world that often rewarded pretense. As Miguel finished cleaning the conference room that night, he caught Sarah watching him with an expression he hadn't seen before. There was something vulnerable and questioning in her eyes that made his heart skip a beat. He had noticed Sarah's increasing friendliness over the past weeks, but he had assumed it was simply professional courtesy. Now he wondered if there might be something more. Neither Sarah nor Miguel could have predicted that their late-night conversations in the corporate corridors would become the foundation for a connection that would eventually challenge both of their assumptions about love, success, and what truly mattered in life. They were about to embark on a journey that would transform not only their relationship, but also their understanding of their own capabilities and dreams. The following Friday marked a turning point in Sarah and Miguel's relationship, though neither of them realized it at the time. Sarah had finally secured the promotion she'd been working toward, becoming the youngest department head in Morrison, an associate's history. The achievement should have felt like triumph, but instead, she found herself wanting to share the news with Miguel more than anyone else. When she encountered him that night, Miguel immediately noticed her excitement. His face broke into a genuine smile when she told him about the promotion, and his enthusiasm felt more meaningful than all the congratulatory emails from her colleagues combined. There was no jealousy or intimidation in his response, only pure happiness for her success. "We should celebrate," Miguel said spontaneously, then quickly looked embarrassed. "I mean, congratulations, you've worked so hard for this." Sarah surprised herself by saying, "Actually, I'd like that. Would you like to get coffee sometime? Not here in the break room, but somewhere real." The question hung in the air between them, both understanding that accepting would cross an invisible line they'd been dancing around for weeks. Miguel hesitated, not because he didn't want to spend time with Sarah, but because he was acutely aware of their different circumstances. He worked as her building's janitor, while she now held an executive position. The social gap between them seemed insurmountable, but Sarah's hopeful expression and the genuine friendship they'd built convinced him to take the risk. They agreed to meet at a small cafe near Emma's school the following Saturday afternoon. Sarah would finally get to meet the daughter Miguel spoke about so lovingly, and Miguel would see Sarah outside the corporate environment that defined most of their interactions. Saturday arrived with Sarah feeling more nervous than she had before any business presentation. She had changed clothes 3 times, finally settling on jeans and a simple sweater that she hoped struck the right balance between approachable and put together. As she walked into the cozy cafe, she spotted Miguel immediately. He was sitting at a corner table with a beautiful little girl who was coloring intently in a workbook. Emma Rodriguez was everything Miguel had described and more. She had her father's warm brown eyes and an infectious smile that lit up her entire face. When Miguel introduced Sarah as his friend from work, Emma looked up with the frank curiosity that only children possess. "Are you the pretty lady Daddy talks about?" Emma asked innocently, causing both adults to blush furiously. "Emma," Miguel said gently, clearly embarrassed. But Sarah laughed, immediately charmed by the child's directness. "What else does your daddy say about me?" "He says you work really hard, and that you're very smart, and that you drink too much coffee," Emma replied seriously, making Sarah burst into genuine laughter. Over the next 2 hours, Sarah watched Miguel transform in his daughter's presence. The quiet dignity he maintained at work blossomed into playful warmth as he helped Emma with her homework, negotiated the number of cookies she could have, and listened patiently to her detailed explanation of every drawing in her coloring book. Sarah found herself drawn into their easy dynamic. Emma included her in conversations about school, friends, and her upcoming dance recital. When Emma spilled juice on her dress, Sarah quickly helped clean it up without thinking twice, earning an approving look from Miguel. As the afternoon progressed, Sarah began to understand the depth of Miguel's sacrifice and love for his daughter. Every decision he made, from the jobs he took to the neighborhood they lived in, was carefully considered through the lens of what would be best for Emma. His devotion was absolute and inspiring. When it was time to leave, Emma hugged Sarah goodbye, as naturally as if they'd known each other for years. "Will you come to my dance recital?" she asked hopefully. Sarah looked at Miguel, who nodded encouragingly. "I'd love to," she said, meaning it completely. Walking to their cars, Miguel thanked Sarah for spending time with them. "Emma doesn't warm up to people easily," he said. "You're special." The sincerity in his voice made Sarah's heart flutter in a way she hadn't experienced since her college days. "She's amazing, Miguel. You're doing an incredible job raising her." "It's not always easy," he admitted. "Sometimes I wonder if she's missing out on things because it's just the two of us. Maybe she needs more stability, more opportunities than I can provide." Sarah wanted to tell him that Emma was clearly thriving under his care, that his love and attention were worth more than material advantages. But she sensed this was a deeper insecurity that Miguel carried, and platitudes wouldn't help. Instead, she said, "From what I can see, Emma has the most important thing any child needs, a parent who loves her unconditionally and puts her first. Everything else is just details." Their relationship shifted after that afternoon. The coffee dates became regular weekend events, sometimes including Emma, and sometimes just the two of them. Sarah discovered that Miguel was far more educated and insightful than his current job might suggest. He read voraciously, stayed informed about current events, and had thoughtful opinions about everything from local politics to international affairs. Miguel, in turn, saw sides of Sarah that her corporate colleagues never witnessed. Away from the pressure of her professional environment, she was funny, spontaneous, and surprisingly down to earth. She genuinely enjoyed spending time with Emma, never talking down to the child but engaging with her as an individual with her own thoughts and feelings. Their first real date happened almost by accident. Emma was spending the night with a school friend, leaving Miguel with a rare free evening. When Sarah mentioned she hadn't eaten dinner, Miguel impulsively invited her to a small Mexican restaurant in his neighborhood that served authentic food from his hometown. The restaurant was nothing like the upscale establishment Sarah usually frequented with colleagues or dates. The decor was simple, the tables were mismatched, and the menu was handwritten in both Spanish and English. But the food was incredible, and the atmosphere was warm and welcoming. Miguel seemed more relaxed than Sarah had ever seen him, joking with the staff in rapid Spanish and explaining different dishes to her with obvious pride in his cultural heritage. Sarah found herself falling deeper under his spell with every story he shared about his childhood, his dreams, and the challenges he'd overcome. As they lingered over dessert, the conversation turned more serious. Miguel confessed his fears about their growing relationship, worried that their different backgrounds might eventually create insurmountable problems. Sarah acknowledged the challenges but emphasized how much she valued what they had together. "I've dated plenty of men who looked good on paper," she said quietly. "They had the right education, the right career, the right connections. But I've never felt with any of them what I feel with you." Miguel reached across the table and took her hand, his calloused fingers gently intertwining with hers. "Sarah, I need you to understand something. Emma and we're a package deal. If this continues between us, you're not just dating me. You're potentially becoming part of her life too." "I know," Sarah replied without hesitation. "I wouldn't want it any other way." That night, as Miguel walked Sarah to her car, they shared their first kiss under the soft glow of a streetlight. It was tender and hesitant at first, then deeper as they both acknowledged the feelings they'd been building toward for months. As Sarah drove home to her upscale apartment, she realized that everything in her life was about to change. She was falling in love with a man whose circumstances were completely different from her own, and she was prepared to navigate whatever challenges that might bring. Sarah's relationship with Miguel deepened over the following months, but keeping their romance private became increasingly complicated. At work, she maintained her professional demeanor while secretly looking forward to their late-night conversations. Her colleagues noticed her improved mood and increased energy, but Sarah deflected their curiosity with vague mentions of focusing on personal wellness. The first real test of their relationship came when Sarah's company announced its annual charity gala, a high-profile event where employees were expected to attend with appropriate partners. Sarah had always gone alone or with a colleague as a platonic date, but this year felt different. She wanted Miguel by her side, yet she knew the evening would thrust their relationship into the spotlight of her professional world. When Sarah mentioned the gala to Miguel, his immediate reaction was hesitation. He understood the implications of appearing as her date at such a visible corporate function. The evening would essentially announce their relationship to Sarah's entire professional network, including clients and senior executives who could impact her career trajectory. "Are you sure about this?" Miguel asked during one of their weekend coffee dates. "Once we walk into that room together, there's no going back to keeping things private." Sarah had been wrestling with the same concerns, but her feelings for Miguel had grown stronger than her fear of potential consequences. "I'm tired of hiding how I feel about you," she said firmly. "If my colleagues have a problem with who I choose to love, that says more about them than it does about us." The decision made, they faced the practical challenge of preparing for an event that required formal attire and social skills that Miguel hadn't needed in years. Sarah offered to buy him a tuxedo, but Miguel's pride wouldn't allow it. Instead, he found a consignment shop where he purchased a well-tailored black suit that looked elegant despite its modest cost. Emma was excited about her father's fancy party, helping him practice his tie knot and giving him earnest advice about dancing and dinner etiquette. Her enthusiasm helped calm Miguel's nerves about entering a world where he might feel out of place. The night of the gala arrived with Sarah feeling a mixture of excitement and apprehension. She had chosen a sophisticated navy blue dress that was elegant without being flashy, wanting to ensure the focus remained on the charitable cause rather than on speculation about her love life. When Miguel picked her up, Sarah was struck by how handsome he looked in his formal attire. The suit fit him perfectly, and his natural confidence shone through despite the unfamiliar setting he was about to enter. More importantly, Emma had insisted on doing his hair, and the slight imperfection in his styling somehow made him even more endearing. The gala was held at Chicago's most prestigious hotel, with the ballroom transformed into an elegant space filled with flowers, soft lighting, and the quiet buzz of successful people discussing business and philanthropy. As Sarah and Miguel entered together, she felt several pairs of eyes turn in their direction. Sarah's immediate supervisor, Jennifer Walsh, approached them within minutes of their arrival. Jennifer was a sharp woman in her 50s who had mentored Sarah through several career milestones, and her opinion mattered enormously to Sarah's future prospects. "Sarah, you look lovely," Jennifer said warmly, then turned expectantly toward Miguel. "Jennifer, I'd like you to meet Miguel Rodriguez," Sarah said, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "Miguel, this is Jennifer Walsh, our senior vice president." Miguel stepped forward with genuine warmth, extending his hand confidently. "It's a pleasure to meet you, Ms. Walsh. Sarah speaks about you often and with great respect." Jennifer seemed pleasantly surprised by Miguel's poise and articulate response. They chatted briefly about the charity being supported that evening, with Miguel demonstrating knowledge about education initiatives that impressed Jennifer. As the evening progressed, Sarah watched Miguel navigate the social complexities of the gala with grace and intelligence. He engaged in conversations about current events, asked thoughtful questions about people's work, and demonstrated genuine interest in learning about different industries and perspectives. However, Not all encounters went smoothly. During dinner, Sarah and Miguel found themselves seated at a table with several of her colleagues, including David Chen, an ambitious account director who had been competing with Sarah for promotions. David had always been subtly condescending toward Sarah, and his behavior toward Miguel was even worse. "So Miguel," David said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes, "what line of work are you in?" Sarah tensed, recognizing the loaded nature of the question. Miguel, however, answered honestly and without embarrassment. "I work in facilities management and maintenance," he said calmly, "currently doing overnight cleaning for several downtown office buildings, including Morrison and Associates." The table fell into an uncomfortable silence as David's eyes widened with realization. "Oh," he said, unable to hide his surprise. "That's interesting. So you clean Sarah's office?" "Among others," Miguel replied evenly, maintaining his dignity despite David's obvious attempt to embarrass him. Sarah felt anger rising in her chest, but before she could respond, Miguel continued, "It's honest work that allows me to support my daughter and pursue other goals. Every job has value if it's done with integrity." Jennifer, who had been listening to the exchange, nodded approvingly. "That's a wonderful perspective, Miguel. Too many people today look down on essential workers without recognizing how important their contributions are." The conversation moved on to other topics, but Sarah noticed how Miguel's honest response had actually earned him respect from most of the table. Only David seemed uncomfortable with the revelation, perhaps realizing that his attempt to diminish Miguel had backfired. Later in the evening, during the dancing portion of the gala, Sarah and Miguel took to the floor together. Miguel wasn't an experienced ballroom dancer, but he moved with natural rhythm and held Sarah with gentle confidence. As they swayed to the music, Sarah felt proud to be with someone whose character shone so brightly in any setting. "You're amazing," Sarah whispered as they danced. "The way you handled David's rudeness, the way you've connected with everyone tonight. I'm so proud to be here with you." Miguel smiled, pulling her slightly closer. "This isn't my world, Sarah, but I'm learning that good people are the same everywhere. Your colleagues who matter can see past job titles to who someone really is." The evening's most touching moment came during the charity auction. When a week-long educational camp for underprivileged children came up for bid, Miguel surprised everyone by raising his hand. Sarah looked at him with concern, knowing he couldn't afford the starting bid of $2,000. But Miguel wasn't trying to win the auction. Instead, he stood up and addressed the room. "I can't afford to bid on this wonderful opportunity," he said clearly, "but I wanted to share something with everyone here. As a single father working multiple jobs to provide for my daughter, I understand how much programs like this mean to families who are struggling." He continued, "I've seen how education can transform a child's future. Emma, my daughter, has participated in similar programs, and they've opened doors for her that I never could have imagined. When you bid tonight, you're not just supporting a charity. You're investing in children who will grow up to be doctors, teachers, entrepreneurs, and leaders. That's worth far more than the money you'll spend." The room erupted in applause, and the final bid for the camp program was 3 times higher than anyone had expected. Several people approached Miguel afterward to thank him for his words and to learn more about his perspective on education and opportunity. As the evening wound down, Sarah realized that bringing Miguel to the gala had been one of the best decisions she'd ever made. He hadn't just survived in her professional world, he had enriched it with his authenticity, wisdom, and genuine care for others. Walking to the car after the event, Sarah felt a shift in their relationship. They had successfully navigated their first major social challenge as a couple, and Miguel had proven that character and integrity mattered more than background or job title. However, she also sensed that their public debut as a couple would bring new challenges and opportunities that neither of them could fully predict. What Sarah didn't know was that several influential people at the gala had been deeply impressed by Miguel's intelligence and perspective, setting in motion events that would dramatically change both of their lives in ways they never could have imagined. 3 weeks after the charity gala, Sarah received an unexpected email from Thomas Morrison, the founding partner of Morrison and Associates. The distinguished 60-something executive rarely communicated directly with department heads, making his request for a meeting both intriguing and slightly nerve-wracking. When Sarah entered Morrison's corner office, she was surprised to find Jennifer Walsh already seated across from the mahogany desk. Both senior executives wore expressions that she couldn't quite read, making her wonder if she was in trouble for some unknown transgression. "Sarah, please sit," Morrison said warmly, gesturing to the chair beside Jennifer. "We wanted to discuss your presentation at the charity gala, specifically your partner's contribution to the evening." Sarah's heart began to race, unsure whether this conversation would be positive or negative. She had heard through office gossip that several clients had been asking about Miguel, but she hadn't known whether their interest was professional or merely curious. Morrison continued, "Miguel's impromptu speech about education and opportunity was remarkable. Several of our major clients approached me afterward asking about him. Robert Harrison from Harrison Industries was particularly impressed and has been thinking about consulting opportunities." Jennifer leaned forward, adding, "What struck everyone was how Miguel articulated complex social and economic issues with such clarity and passion. His perspective on education, workforce development, and community investment showed sophisticated understanding of policy and business implications." Sarah felt relieved, but also protective of Miguel. "He's incredibly intelligent and well-read," she said carefully, "but I hope people aren't interested in him just as some kind of novelty." "Not at all," Morrison assured her. Harrison specifically mentioned that Miguel's background gives him insights that most consultants lack. He understands both the challenges facing working families and the business implications of social programs. That combination is rare and valuable. The meeting concluded with Morrison asking if Sarah thought Miguel might be interested in consulting opportunities. As she walked back to her office, Sarah felt excited about the possibilities but also concerned about how Miguel would react to sudden professional interest from her world. That evening, Sarah found Miguel at his usual cleaning routine, working methodically through the conference rooms. When she shared the details of her meeting with Morrison, Miguel's initial reaction was skepticism. "They want to hire me as a consultant?" he asked, pausing in his window cleaning. "Sarah, I appreciate what you're trying to do, but I don't want charity or pity jobs because I'm dating you." Sarah had expected this response, knowing how important Miguel's independence and dignity were to him. "This isn't charity, Miguel. Morrison doesn't do anything out of kindness alone. If clients are asking about you, it's because they see value in what you have to offer." Over the next few days, Miguel researched Harrison Industries and the type of consulting work they typically commissioned. What he discovered surprised him. The company was genuinely committed to community development and workforce training programs, areas where Miguel's personal experience and academic background could provide valuable insights. When Robert Harrison called Miguel directly to request a meeting, Miguel agreed, though he remained cautious about the opportunity. The meeting was scheduled for the following Thursday at Harrison's downtown office, giving Miguel time to prepare thoroughly. Sarah offered to help Miguel prepare for the meeting, but he insisted on doing the research himself. He spent every spare moment reading Harrison Industries' annual reports, studying their community initiatives, and researching best practices in workforce development. His dedication impressed Sarah, who realized that Miguel approached this opportunity with the same methodical care he brought to every aspect of his life. The day of the meeting, Miguel arrived at Harrison Industries wearing his best suit and carrying a folder of carefully prepared notes. Robert Harrison, a distinguished man in his early 50s, greeted Miguel warmly and led him to a comfortable conference room overlooking the Chicago River. "Miguel, thank you for coming," Harrison said as they settled into their chairs. "Your comments at the Morrison Gala really resonated with me. I'd like to explore whether there might be ways for you to contribute to some of our community development initiatives." What followed was a 2-hour conversation that revealed the depth of Miguel's knowledge and insight. He had researched Harrison Industries programs extensively and came prepared with thoughtful analysis of their strengths and suggestions for improvement. Miguel's perspective was unique because he had lived the challenges that Harrison's programs were designed to address. He understood firsthand the barriers facing single parents trying to advance their careers, the practical difficulties of accessing job training programs, and the real-world impact of various social services. But Miguel also demonstrated sophisticated understanding of business principles, policy implications, and program evaluation methods. His academic background in business administration, combined with years of real-world experience, gave him a perspective that pure academics or traditional consultants couldn't match. Harrison was particularly impressed when Miguel presented a detailed analysis of a workforce development program that wasn't meeting its goals. Miguel had identified specific structural problems and proposed solutions that addressed both the participants' needs and the program's business objectives. "This is exactly the kind of thinking we need," Harrison said as the meeting concluded. "Would you be interested in working with us on a consulting basis? We have several community initiatives that could benefit from your insights." Miguel felt a surge of excitement, but maintained his professional composure. "I'm very interested, Mr. Harrison. However, I should mention that I'm currently working overnight shifts that I can't immediately abandon. I have financial responsibilities that require steady income." Harrison nodded approvingly. "I respect that, Miguel. What if we started with a part-time consulting arrangement? You could work on projects during daytime hours while maintaining your current income. If things go well, we could discuss expanding the arrangement." The offer was better than Miguel had dared to hope. Harrison was proposing an hourly consulting rate that was more than double what Miguel earned from his cleaning jobs, and the work would utilize his education and skills in ways that could lead to greater opportunities. When Miguel shared the news with Sarah that evening, her excitement was infectious. They celebrated at the same small Mexican restaurant where they'd had their first real date, with Miguel explaining the details of his new consulting role, while Sarah beamed with pride. "I knew this would happen," Sarah said, raising her glass, in a toast. "You're too talented and intelligent to be overlooked forever. This is just the beginning." But Miguel remained grounded despite his good fortune. "It's one small project, Sarah. I'm grateful for the opportunity, but I'm not getting ahead of myself. Emma and I have been disappointed before." His caution proved wise but also unnecessary. Miguel's first consulting project for Harrison Industries exceeded all expectations. He was asked to evaluate a job training program for single parents, an assignment that perfectly matched his personal experience with his professional skills. Miguel's report was comprehensive, insightful, and practical. He identified problems that previous consultants had missed, proposed solutions that were both effective and cost-efficient, and presented his findings with clarity and professionalism that impressed everyone who read it. Word of Miguel's excellent work spread quickly through Harrison Industries' network. Within 2 months, he was receiving consulting requests from other organizations, all eager to benefit from his unique combination of lived experience and analytical skills. The transformation in Miguel's professional life happened gradually. Then suddenly, his consulting income began to exceed his earnings from the cleaning jobs, allowing him to reduce his overnight hours and spend more time with Emma. His reputation grew as word spread about his ability to bridge the gap between academic theory and real-world implementation. Sarah watched Miguel's career evolution with admiration and love, seeing him finally receive the recognition his talents deserved. But she also noticed subtle changes in their relationship dynamic as Miguel's professional status began to rise, and their economic circumstances became more equal. What neither of them realized was that Miguel's consulting success was about to open doors they hadn't even imagined, leading to opportunities that would challenge both of them to reconsider their assumptions about success, ambition, and the directions their lives could take together. 6 months after Miguel's first consulting project with Harrison Industries, his reputation had grown far beyond what anyone could have predicted. Corporate executives throughout Chicago were seeking his insights on community development, workforce, training, and social impact programs. His unique background allowed him to analyze complex social issues from both academic and practical perspectives, making his recommendations incredibly valuable. Sarah watched with pride and amazement as Miguel, transformed from a night janitor working multiple jobs to one of the city's most sought-after consultants in community development. His calendar was filling with high-profile projects, speaking engagements and strategy sessions with major corporations. The change in Miguel's circumstances also meant significant improvements for Emma. They moved from their small apartment to a comfortable house in a better school district, and Emma was able to participate in dance classes, music lessons, and other activities that had previously been financially out of reach. Miguel's success was providing his daughter with opportunities he had only dreamed of giving her. However, the rapid changes in Miguel's career also brought unexpected challenges to his relationship with Sarah. As his professional profile rose, she found herself in the unusual position of being the less prominent partner in their relationship. Colleagues who had once been skeptical about her choice to date a janitor were now asking her to introduce them to the acclaimed consultant, Miguel Rodriguez. The situation became even more complex when Thomas Morrison approached Miguel directly with an extraordinary proposition. Morrison and Associates had been observing Miguel's consulting work and were impressed not only with the quality of his insights, but also with his ability to generate new business opportunities. "Miguel," Morrison said during a lunch meeting at one of Chicago's finest restaurants, "I have an unusual offer to discuss with you. We've been considering expanding our practice to include social impact consulting, and we believe you would be the perfect person to lead this new division." The offer was staggering. Morrison was proposing that Miguel join the firm as a senior partner with a substantial salary, equity stake, and complete autonomy to build the social impact consulting division. The position would make Miguel one of the highest-paid executives at Morrison and Associates, with earnings that would dwarf his previous consulting income. Miguel listened to the proposal with characteristic thoughtfulness, asking detailed questions about expectations, timeline, and the firm's long-term commitment to social impact work. Morrison's answers satisfied Miguel's concerns about whether this was a genuine opportunity or simply a publicity stunt. When Miguel shared Morrison's offer with Sarah that evening, her reaction was complicated. She was genuinely thrilled about his success and proud of how far he had come from their first meeting in the office corridors. But she also felt a twinge of uncertainty about how this dramatic change would affect their relationship dynamic. "Are you going to accept?" Sarah asked as they sat in Miguel's new living room, Emma doing homework at the kitchen table. "I'm seriously considering it," Miguel replied. "The work aligns perfectly with my interests and experience, and the financial security would be life-changing for Emma and me. But I'm concerned about one thing." Sarah waited, sensing that Miguel's concern involved their relationship. "If I take this position, I'll technically be your colleague at Morrison and Associates," Miguel said carefully. "Actually, given the seniority level Morrison is offering, I might end up being your superior in the company hierarchy. How do you feel about that?" The question hung in the air between them, touching on issues of professional dynamics, gender, roles, and relationship equality that neither had fully considered before. Sarah realized she needed to examine her own feelings honestly. After a long pause, she said, "I won't lie, Miguel. It's an adjustment to think about. 6 months ago, people were judging me for dating someone they considered beneath my professional status. Now I'm wondering if people will think I'm with you for career advancement." Miguel nodded, understanding her concerns. "That's exactly what worries me. I don't want our relationship to become complicated by office politics or speculation about favoritism." They spent the next week discussing the implications of Morrison's offer from every angle. Sarah talked to Jennifer Walsh confidentially, seeking advice about navigating workplace relationships between colleagues of different seniority levels. Miguel consulted with Emma's school counselor about how his career change might affect his daughter's adjustment to their new circumstances. Ultimately, both Sarah and Miguel realized that their relationship was strong enough to withstand professional complexities. Miguel's success didn't diminish Sarah's achievements, and her established position at the firm could actually help him navigate the corporate culture more effectively. Miguel accepted Morrison's offer, beginning his new role as senior partner and director of social impact consulting at Morrison and Associates. His first day at the office was surreal for both him and Sarah. The man who had once cleaned the conference rooms was now occupying a corner office 2 floors above Sarah's department. The transition wasn't without its challenges. Some longtime employees struggled to accept Miguel's rapid ascension, particularly David Chen, who had been passed over for several promotions and couldn't hide his resentment. During Miguel's first executive committee meeting, David made several passive-aggressive comments about unconventional hiring practices and the importance of traditional qualifications. Miguel handled the subtle hostility with the same dignity he had shown throughout his career journey. When David questioned his credentials during a presentation about community partnership strategies, Miguel responded calmly and professionally. "David, you raise a valid point about traditional qualifications," Miguel said, maintaining eye contact. "My path to this position was certainly unconventional. However, I believe that diversity of experience strengthens our ability to serve clients effectively. My background gives me insights into community challenges that complement the excellent analytical skills our team already possesses." Thomas Morrison nodded approvingly from across the conference table. "That's exactly why we created this position. Miguel, we needed someone who could bridge the gap between academic theory and practical implementation." Within 3 months, Miguel's social impact division was generating more revenue than anyone had projected. Corporate clients were eager to work with someone who understood both the business implications of social programs and the real-world experiences of the communities they were trying to serve. Miguel's success also brought unexpected opportunities for Sarah. As his romantic partner and one of the firm's most experienced account managers, she became a natural liaison between the social impact division and traditional consulting services. Her deep understanding of both Miguel's work and the firm's established client base made her invaluable in developing integrated service offerings. Morrison recognized Sarah's unique position and offered her a promotion to senior account director, with specific responsibility for coordinating cross-divisional projects. The new role came with a substantial salary increase and put Sarah on track for partnership consideration within 2 years. For the first time since they'd met, Sarah and Miguel were true professional equals. They collaborated on several major projects combining Sarah's strategic planning expertise with Miguel's community development insights. Their professional partnership was as successful as their personal relationship, earning recognition from clients and colleagues alike. The most rewarding project came when Harrison Industries asked them to design and implement a comprehensive workforce development program for the Chicago area. The initiative would provide job training, educational opportunities, and career counseling for single parents and other underserved populations. Working together on the project, Sarah and Miguel drew from all their combined experiences. Sarah's project management skills and corporate knowledge were essential for securing funding and building partnerships with other organizations. Miguel's understanding of the target population's needs ensured that the program would actually serve its intended beneficiaries effectively. Emma, now 8 years old, became an unofficial consultant on the project. Her observations about school programs, after-school care, and the challenges facing her friends from single-parent homes provided valuable insights that helped shape the program's design. The Workforce Development Initiative launched 6 months later with great fanfare. Local media covered the story, highlighting how an innovative partnership between Morrison and Associates and Harrison Industries was addressing critical community needs. Both Sarah and Miguel were featured in articles about creative approaches to social impact consulting. However, the most meaningful moment came during the program's first graduation ceremony. 23 single parents had completed the job training program, and 18 had already secured full-time employment with benefits. As Miguel watched the graduates walk across the stage, many of them sharing stories about how the program had changed their families' lives, he felt a profound sense of purpose. Sarah stood beside him, watching his emotional reaction to the ceremony. She realized that Miguel's journey from janitor to senior partner wasn't just about professional advancement. It represented something much more significant: the power of recognizing talent and potential in unexpected places. After the ceremony, as they drove home together, Miguel reflected on how dramatically their lives had changed. "A year ago, I was cleaning offices at night and worrying about whether I could afford Emma's school supplies," he said quietly. Now I'm in a position to help create programs that might prevent other parents from facing those same struggles. Sarah reached over and took his hand. You've earned every bit of success you've achieved, Miguel. But more importantly, you're using that success to make a real difference. As they pulled into the driveway of their shared home, they had moved in together 3 months earlier, Emma ran out to greet them, eager to hear about the graduation ceremony. Miguel swept his daughter into a hug, and Sarah felt overwhelmed, with love for the family they had created together. But even as they celebrated their professional and personal successes, none of them could have predicted that Miguel's growing reputation was about to bring an opportunity that would challenge everything they thought they knew about their future together. The call that would change everything was still to come. The phone call that would change everything came on a Tuesday morning in March, exactly 18 months after Miguel had first joined Morrison & Associates. Sarah was reviewing quarterly reports when Miguel knocked on her office door, his expression a mixture of excitement and disbelief. Sarah, I just got off the phone with Margaret Chen from the Chicago Community Development Corporation, he said, closing the door behind him. You're not going to believe what she offered me. The Chicago Community Development Corporation was one of the city's most influential nonprofit organizations, with an annual budget of over $50 million and programs that affected hundreds of thousands of residents. Margaret Chen, the organization's board chair, was a respected businesswoman whose opinion carried significant weight in both corporate and nonprofit circles. They want me to apply for the position of Chief Executive Officer, Miguel continued, still seeming stunned by the conversation. The current CEO is retiring and they've been conducting a nationwide search for a replacement. Apparently my work with workforce development programs has caught their attention. Sarah felt her heart skip a beat. The CEO position at the Chicago Community Development Corporation was one of the most prestigious and impactful social sector leadership roles in the Midwest. The person who held that position would shape policy, influence millions of dollars in community investment, and work directly with mayors, governors, and federal officials. Miguel, that's incredible, Sarah said, though she immediately began to consider the implications. But that would mean leaving Morrison & Associates, wouldn't it? Not necessarily, Miguel replied, sitting down across from her desk. Margaret mentioned that the board is interested in innovative approaches to community development. They're open to creating partnerships with consulting firms and corporate sponsors. There might be ways to maintain connections with Morrison while taking on this new role. Over the next few weeks, Miguel went through an intensive interview process that tested every aspect of his knowledge, experience, and vision for community development. He met with board members, community leaders, government officials, and representatives from major foundations that funded the organization's work. Sarah supported Miguel throughout the process, helping him prepare for interviews and celebrating each successful round of evaluations. But she also felt a growing sense of uncertainty about what his potential new role would mean for their relationship and their life together. The final interview was a presentation to the full board of directors, where Miguel would outline his vision for the organization's future. He spent weeks preparing, drawing on everything he had learned from his consulting work, his academic background, and his personal experiences with the challenges facing working families. On the day of his presentation, Sarah and Emma sat in the audience as Miguel stood before a room full of Chicago's most influential civic leaders. His presentation was masterful, combining data-driven analysis with compelling stories about real families whose lives could be transformed by effective community programs. Miguel proposed an ambitious 5-year plan that would double the organization's impact while actually reducing administrative costs. His strategy focused on creating partnerships between corporations, nonprofits, educational institutions, and government agencies to address systemic issues rather than just treating symptoms. The board was visibly impressed by Miguel's vision and his ability to articulate complex strategies in clear, compelling terms. When the question and answer session began, Miguel handled challenging questions about funding, political partnerships, and program evaluation with expertise that demonstrated his deep understanding of both policy and practical implementation. 3 days later, Margaret Chen called to offer Miguel the position. The salary was substantial, though not quite as high as his earnings at Morrison and Associates. However, the opportunity to lead an organization that could impact hundreds of thousands of lives was priceless. Miguel accepted the offer, beginning a transition process that would take him from senior partner at a consulting firm to CEO of one of Chicago's most important community organizations. The local business press covered the story extensively, highlighting Miguel's remarkable journey from night janitor to nonprofit CEO. Thomas Morrison was gracious about Miguel's departure, recognizing that the opportunity was too significant to refuse. He also proposed maintaining a consulting relationship that would allow Morrison and Associates to continue working on social impact projects while Miguel led the broader community development effort. Sarah's role became even more important during this transition. As Miguel prepared to take over leadership of the Community Development Corporation, Sarah became the primary liaison between Morrison and Associates and the new partnership arrangements. Her deep understanding of both organizations made her essential for ensuring smooth collaboration. The transition also brought unexpected opportunities for Sarah herself. Morrison offered her Miguel's former position as senior partner, making her one of the youngest partners in the firm's history. The promotion came with a significant increase in responsibility and compensation, as well as equity in the firm that would provide long-term financial security. Miguel's first year as CEO exceeded all expectations. Under his leadership, the Community Development Corporation launched innovative programs that attracted national attention. His workforce development initiatives became models that other cities began copying, and his success in building public-private partnerships brought millions of additional dollars in funding to Chicago's communities. The personal impact was equally significant. Miguel's new position gave him a platform to advocate for policy changes that would benefit working families throughout the region. He testified before state legislature committees, spoke at national conferences, and was invited to join task forces addressing poverty and economic development. Emma, now 9 years old, adapted to her father's new prominence with remarkable grace. She was proud of his achievements but remained grounded in the values he had always taught her about treating everyone with respect regardless of their circumstances. The transformation of Miguel's circumstances also strengthened his relationship with Sarah in unexpected ways. Their shared commitment to making a positive impact through their work created new dimensions to their partnership. They collaborated on projects that combined Morrison and Associates' consulting expertise with the Community Development Corporation's community connections and policy influence. 2 years after Miguel became CEO, Sarah received a surprise phone call from the mayor's office. The city was launching a comprehensive anti-poverty initiative, and they wanted Sarah to lead the project as Director of Strategic Initiatives. The position would require her to work closely with Miguel's organization while coordinating efforts across multiple city departments and community partners. Sarah accepted the role, beginning a new phase of their relationship where both partners held positions of significant influence in Chicago's social and economic development efforts. Their combined impact was greater than either could have achieved individually, and their success story became an inspiration for others who believed that talent and character mattered more than traditional credentials. The most meaningful recognition came when the Chicago Tribune named Miguel and Sarah to their annual list of Chicagoans of the Year. The article highlighted their individual achievements but emphasized how their partnership had demonstrated new possibilities for collaboration between corporate, nonprofit, and government sectors. As they stood together at the awards ceremony, surrounded by Emma and friends who had supported their journey, Miguel reflected on how far they had traveled from their first meeting in the corridors of Morrison and Associates. The night janitor had not just taken over a boardroom, he had transformed the very definition of leadership and success. Sarah looked at the man beside her, remembering the quiet dignity he had shown while cleaning offices and the wisdom he had shared during their late-night conversations. His journey from janitor to CEO was remarkable, but what she loved most about Miguel was that success had never changed his fundamental character. He remained the same thoughtful, dedicated, and loving man she had fallen for, just with a much larger platform for making a difference. Their love story had become something neither could have imagined. a partnership that proved love could indeed conquer all, while also demonstrating that recognizing potential in unexpected places could literally change the world around them.